Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. Today I want to showcase something I've been working hard on for the past 4 months or so. You might have heard of it, but it's the Depth Tracker mod. Now, a lot happened to the mod since version 1, and I wanted to show what's changed and what's new. So we started work on this version like 4 months ago when I met Elo in a VC and asked if I can help him develop the mod, and a little after that we started planning out version 2, which was going to be a way more improved version of the mod with new UI and stuff. Since then, Elo left the development, but he helped a lot in the early development of V2, so thanks Elo. So let's open the menu. So first we have the main window here, which is gonna show all the labels we created, all the text. The default one won't look like this. I changed it and I'll show how to change it a bit later in the video. So we have got the session selector up here on the top left. You can switch between the sessions that you played, and the first session on this list is always the most recent one. So if I go to the last one, for example, for me, this is session 151, and these are the runs I did on that session, so pretty cool. You can both click these arrow keys and type it in if you want. So for the runs, I wanted to have it track every single run you do, which is an option. If you toggle track any run, it would track any run you do in practice and in start pause. But then when I was testing it out, it got very cluttered and messy. So I wanted to have an option for you to choose which runs you do track, so it wouldn't be as messy. And anyways, the normal person usually makes start positions, which would start at specific places, so you would anyways not need all the extra run tracking. So for that, I have this little system here where you can input a % of where your start pause is at and add it in, and it would track the runs from that %. So for example, on PoolCube here, I have 11, 24, 31, 36, 47, 64, and 83% tracked. And you can see them here. Now, if you have old runs that are not from this list and you want only runs that you put on this list to appear, there's delete unused, which will delete every single run you have saved that's not included within this list of runs. So you can use that to clear up data. Now we have the graphs button. This is a pass rate graph that shows your consistency basically on the level. The lower the pass rate, the less consistent you are at a part, and you can see it from this graph. For example, this area where it's all at the top, that means I never died in between these two spots. But I have died here, here, and here. I was told that this graph is a little annoying to understand and difficult to use, and I was suggested to use other graphs. And I will probably update the mod with more graph options later on. But for now, this is what we've got. Now this is your graph of runs from 0%. You can also choose to see graphs of runs. For example, from 11%, from 24%. These are the runs I have on my runs list, and I can input them manually as well if I wish to. You can also look at your graph of specific sessions. For example, these sessions where I have no graph means I did runs only, so if I go to runs and choose, I don't know, like, there you go. In this session I played from 47% for a bit, and I have a graph for this here. Now, some sessions I have played from 0 in, like this one, for example, and yeah, it's pretty cool. You can also click any of the points to see the % of the run and the pass rate %, if it's not already clear enough from the grid. Now we've got the link button. It might take a while to load in, but once it does, you can see all the levels you have progress on. Now, this is gonna be a pretty big pain to navigate. So I have a search option here if you want to look for something specific, like, I don't know, Abyss of Darkness, for example. Now, this lets you merge the two progresses you have on two separate levels. For example, here on PooCubed, I have a PooCubed start position level, and I linked it by, like, for example, going to Stereo Madness and clicking this. Now they are linked. Now that they're linked, their runs would be shared and all progress generally, so yeah. And if I unlink them, they won't count as one anywhere. Now, the trash button. This would delete all progress you have on this level. Usually you would not do this, obviously, but if you want, this is an option. But if accidentally your save got corrupted, or deleted something you didn't want to delete, there's this option, the backups. Now this backup is being created basically every time you open this menu. So if something happens, you can always click this and revert it, and it would revert it to the last backup. This would usually fix any corruptions to the file. Moving on to edit layout. All this is a representation of your text in like boxes that you can move around. So for example, PooCubed is the title, and I can move it down here, and now it's next to the attempts, like it is in here. And I can move it back and do this. You can also cancel in order to dismiss any changes you've made. You can revert to the default layout, and you can add a new label if you want. For example, I can take a new label, put it next to the attempts, and now the attempts are on the side. You can also edit the properties of each label to whatever you want. For example, this custom label I just created, let's double click it, and we've got all the settings. In here we can change the label's name, so let me just change it to something like test or something. And here it is, now it's called test. You can add text to it, for example, like, hi, happy face. And now if I click apply, as you can see, it says hi, happy face next to the attempts. We can also align it to the left, for example, and now it's aligned to the left, and we can also align it to the right, like this. Now it's aligned to the right. You can also change the color of this thing, like to red, for example, and now it's red. And you can change the RGB values of this. So if I wanted, for example, for this to be white, I can change the hex to FFFFFFF. Oh, no, these are too many Fs. You can also change the opacity of the text. You can make this like half transparent if you want. I'm gonna make this fully visible, and you can also change the font size. I can make this a ginormous high smiley face, and maybe a tiny one. You can also change the font. So I click change here, and the first time you do this, it's gonna do a little lag spike, but that's okay. And then all the fonts are gonna just appear here, and you can choose from one of them if you want. And so for example, I'll choose font 46 and apply. Now this is at font 46. Now the last thing you should know about the settings is the special text keys. Inside this little info box next to the text, there are all the keys you can use to insert new stuff. For example, there's the NL key for new line. So if I, after the hi here, put an NL, I don't know, like hello or something else, and click apply, it appears on a new line over here. Pretty cool. You can also do things like insert to the level's name. So if I put level name happy face, it would say PooCubed happy face because this is the level's name. And you can also put your from 0 attempts F0, and you have all your from 0 attempts just like you have them in here. You can play around with this as much as you want. Just land on a thing you like, and if you don't like what you make, you can revert to the default one. Now I'm gonna delete this test label. Now for the modify runs section. In here, you can change, add, remove, whatever runs you want. For example, let's say I got like 60. So I'd input 60 here and click the plus button, and it would add 1. If I'd wanted to add more, like I got 60 10 times, I would make the amount 10 and click plus, and it added 10 60s. Now I can remove them with the minus button, and I can add whatever runs I want. This text box is for runs from 0%, and these are for runs. For example, I can add a run from 60 to 100, and 10 of them, so I'll click the plus. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but we cannot see the run we just added because we can only see the runs that are in this runs list. So if I mark track any runs here, you'd be able to see the one I just added because it's not on this. 60 to 100 times 10, and I can remove these 10 runs. Pretty cool. Now let's go to the manage section, which is a small little tab where you can view and search for any level you have progress on. For example, I can look for bloodbath, and I can delete all my progress on it, and I can also view it, which would send me to the levels tab, like this. Now the copy text button will let you copy the text of any label you want. So for example, I want to copy my runs from 0, I click copy text and click the runs from 0 label, and it copies it. Now we have the export and import settings. Right here you can export all of your progress into a file. I click this button under export and I get this little pop-up. I can change the name to whatever I want, like progress or whatever you want to call it. I'll click save, and you can click this and it opens the exports folder. Now this creates a file with all the text you can see inside this big window. So if you want to export just your runs and attempts from 0, you got this option of without labels, which if I export it again, then as you can see, it updated the file with just my runs from 0 and runs from start positions. And now, import. This is for anyone who has a old progress document and wants to move all of his progress easily into Death Tracker. You can easily do this with this feature. It would usually work. There's some cases where it wouldn't, but it should be fine most of the time. For example, I'm gonna take the progress.txt I just created and double click it, and now it read the file and recognized all of these runs. Now this page will ask you if what it found is accurate or not. You can tell it it was not accurate and it won't add it into your save, and you can also tell it that it is and it would add them into the file. Now for the settings of the mod. We got the session length setting, which will let you specify what counts as a session. For example, -2 represents every time you open the level. So whenever I open the level, a new session is created. If I input -1, then whenever I open the game, a new session is created. And whenever I close the game, the session ends. And whatever other number you input would change the session from, instead of relying on exiting the level or exiting the game, to seconds. For example, I could tell the game that a session lasts 100 seconds. Now every 100 seconds a new session will be created. Here you have the option for the pause button menu. Now if I open up the level and open my pause menu, you can see there's the Death Tracker button up here. Now you can toggle this on and off. For example, I don't want this in my pause menu, so I remove this and poof, it's gone. Now for the late save option. Usually, the mod saves your runs whenever you die. So, for example, without late save, I just died, and it changed the file instantly and tracked the run. Now usually this would be what you want because you want all your runs to be tracked immediately or as fast as possible. But tracking runs on death can cause lag spikes if your file is really large. So for people who get lag spikes, I have this late save option which would save the file after you exit the levels. So if you guys are getting lag spikes on death, use late save, it might fix your problem. Disable tracking completed levels will make it so if a level is completed, it would not track anymore. Pretty simple. Enable 0% practice mode deaths, which would make it so runs from 0% on practice mode would count as normal deaths. Now for the save location. This is the path where the game saves my progress. Now I can change this to whatever I want. I wouldn't recommend changing this, but if your game has trouble saving them at this location, you can change it. Now, this was it for this video. If there are any features you want to suggest or anything you want to say it in the comments. I would love to hear it. Now, the only thing I'm really aiming to do is finish up the graphs and get the mod featured somehow. I don't know how that's done, but I really want it to happen, so I'll try my best. Alright, so that's it. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.